after reading What If Aliens issue 1, I'm going to say that the factory assembled version of Alien 3 is still my favorite version. The original theatrical cut, not my cup of tea whatsoever. Now, with that said, I don't understand why Dark Horse, or not Dark Horse, Fox didn't look to the Dark Horse comics after Alien, because they had basically established the world after that. I mean, we see Burke's. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to show you where my brain was just a moment ago. When Dark Horse was licensed to do the original sequel to Alien, it shows Hicks and Newt getting back together years later, and essentially what happens is different companies are fighting for control over the alien, which causes an outbreak on Earth. So the whole series was called Earth War. And if you don't have the comics or can't get a hold of them, I highly suggest going over to Alien Theory and looking at his Earth War playlist and Beyond the Earth War. But it's just like years and years after. I mean, even after the Earth War, Ripley, Newt, and Hicks go their separate ways and live their lives, but there's still repercussions to what happened in the book. Now, after Alien 3 came out and they reprinted the comics, Hicks became Wilkes, Billy became Billy, and Ripley kind of became like a clone android. So if you read the reprints or read the novelization versions, those are what you're going to get, unless you can get your hands on the OG comics. I say all that to say this. If we could go back in time and say, okay, if you're super unopposed to doing the Dark Horse comics, here's a concept for you. And that's what we got with this book. And I liked that Paul Reiser actually had a hand in writing this book. So let's talk about who made this real quick. The concept's by Paul and Leon Reiser, Adam F. Goldberg, and Hans Rodnoff, sure, and Brian VolkWeiss. Part 1's written by Hans Rodnoff and Adam F. Goldberg. Artist is Guy Villanova. Color artist was Yin Nitro. And the letters is VC's Clayton Cowell. And here's everyone else that's working on this current new series from Marvel. So the book jumps right in after the hospital scene when Burke releases the facehuggers and Hudson's saying we should blow his damn head off right now. And they're all kind of debating amongst each other. Ripley gives that famous line of, "You figure they can get an alien back through quarantine if one of us was impregnated or whatever you call it, and then frozen for the trip home. Nobody would know about the embryos that we were carrying." And then she says, I don't see these right here. Burke, I don't know which species is worse. You don't see them each other over for a percentage. But then, of course, the aliens get through, and we get that classic sensor scene where there's like, they're right on top of us. And then, of course, the action, Burke runs away in a panic, and we see him run face first into an alien, just like we did in the film. However, after he gets cocooned, as we see, and just in case, for those of you that have only seen the original version of Alien, there's a director's cut, and even I think on the original Aliens DVD, they show the cutscene where Burke got impregnated by a facehugger after getting taken. So in this one, I don't want to give away how he survived, but it was kind of a neat little concept. So in this version, the Queen, after she gets blown out the giant air hole on the Sulaco, we see that Burke actually was able to hitch a ride back as well. And so after everyone goes into Cairo sleep, Burke actually stands over Ripley and says, "I wish I could have explained everything, Ripley. When you wake up, you'll see I'm not just some company man." So that kind of goes back to when they first met, and he goes, "I may be a company person, but don't let that fool you. I'm actually really an okay guy." But you can see how he just will not... How do I explain it? He doesn't really give into his convictions on wanting to be a good guy, because here he contacts Weyland Yutani. He goes, "I thought you were dead." "So did I." And he's like, well, how'd you survive? Or he's like, why didn't you report back or get any of the specimens? And he's like, the nuclear reactors were blown. And you let it happen? He goes, I was cocooned. Were you impregnated? Me? No, sir. And this dude just straight up says, that's unfortunate. So he cuts the deal. He basically says, I need to come home. I'll do whatever I can. And they said, well, we can't have any eyewitnesses of what happened on LV 426. And so this gentleman here says, you need to, get rid of everyone that could be liable for saying what happened on this planet. And Bert breaks down and he goes, okay, I'll take care of it. But I want a lifetime contract with Leyland-Yutani with a retirement benefit package, plus dental. One day, my girls will need braces. So he says, done. And he goes, I'm sorry, Ripley. I have to go home. Now, I don't want... It kind of ties into the beginning of Alien 3. Because we see a scene where it says, double Y chromosome, work correctional facility. Fiorna, Fury, 161. And then he takes the Sulaco home and is picked up by Weyland-Yutani. We cut 2 years later, and Burke basically hates himself. 5 minutes to heat up a stupid shower, jelly stain on my favorite stupid donut, stupid decaf coffee because of my stupid sensitive stomach. So this is 32 years later. And you can just see how much he hates his life. Basically, word got out that he was the one that was responsible for all the deaths on LV-426, Hadley's Hope. And so, of course, wife hates him, daughter hates him. And I told you a billion times, I don't want to have lunch with you today or any other day. And his daughter just straight up bails on him. Anytime he tries to ask for repairs on the planet that he's living on, they're like, oh, you're the Carter Burke? Why would we want to help you? You're the one that's responsible for millions of deaths of people. And so he's trying to find a way to get back into Weyland-Yutani's good graces so his life can pick up again. And that's what I mean by is he finds a way to save Ripley, but still succumbs to suckering up to Weyland-Yutani, even though it's trying to do it in good intentions, where there's that old saying of the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and that's exactly the epitome of Carter Burke. And that's what we see towards the end of this issue. I don't want to give everything away about who this gentleman is, that he's hired to get a certain procurement, which, as you can see by the stasis pod, it pretty much makes it self-explanatory. But yeah, this would have been an interesting way to go after James Cameron's Aliens, because it lines up with everything that happened at the end of the movie. It still ties into what happened with the events of 3, minus the Queen being on board, magically placing an egg in the not-so-matching freezers that we saw in Alien versus Aliens 3. But that's a whole nother rant. This is gearing up to be an interesting comic book series, and I can't wait to read issue 2. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, or you're just a big fan of the Alien franchise, I highly recommend going to your local comic shop and grabbing this series. And if you, or I always mean to say this, anywhere else that you like to get your comics and action figures. And if you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Xenomorph bell next to subscribe, that way as I continue to upload content, you guys get notified, come to the channel, and I love talking with y'all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.